welcome our panel here. I'm Miss Wan Siu Ping from SIAA, and I have here with me all my friends from the automation industry. From the far end, Mr. Tan from Rockwell. Okay. The next is Mr. Pham from Hose, and I have here with me Mr. Lee from Rovisis. So today we have an interesting queries to answer. So would like all our panelists here to share with us their experiences and what they see in the automation industry. So first thing I would like to ask, what are the areas of inefficiency that all of you all seen in the industry that will require us to think of automation? So maybe I open it to the floor. Which one of you would like to speak first?
Maybe
Mr. Lee.
I take that first.
Yeah.
I think today, the biggest issue today is that for inefficiency, there's no so-called overriding view. You do not know where is the inefficiency coming from. Sometimes the most commonly observed ones are coming from your machines, your production output, your wastage, and then your resources. So there need to be an overriding system where you can collect all this data, and then over time you know where are the specific inefficiencies coming from. And to add to that equation, the complexity is that today you even need to include the supply chain equation.
Yeah, especially now with this major issue of COVID in the last 2 years, right? So what about the other two friends here?
So from what I see, some of the plants, especially those mature plants, in terms of processes, they are doing it in a very manual process. So they utilize manual process to issue like work orders. There's no proper record documentation process being done. So in fact, that is actually one of the inefficiency. Then for their system, most of them might be outdated or even discontinued parts they use. So that's also contribute to inefficiency when they want to source for replacement of parts. And next is also one of the important things, which is the employee knowledge of the system. Whichever new or old system that they are maintaining, they should have a knowledge on that. And lastly, the machines are not properly maintained. So that's also one of the concerns, that not properly maintained machine might be prone to breakdown.
Oh yes. So it sounds like there are a lot of areas that the manufacturing industry people need to think about, and there are lots of technology that we have that can actually go to help them. So would like to know what in the past examples or your experience in your work that what are areas that you had, the solutions that you have managed to get them to be engaged in? Maybe any comment from anyone? One of the past examples of technology that has really helped the company and you all had implemented or managed to persuade the company to look into it and put something in place to transform their work. Anyone?
Maybe
Mr. Lee first?
I start again. Okay, thank you. So for me, I think I mentioned earlier that the visibility is an issue, right? So what can I say? There are a lot of manual processes going on. So it could be anything relating to wastage, low productivity, uptime issue. So we try, as Rovisis, we try to look at a more holistic level. Firstly, we look at the business drivers. Is this causing some of the business driver issue? Then production. So from that angle, then there are two options that we typically take. So one of them is, and I'm seeing it more prevalent today because of current COVID situations and economy uncertainties. Some companies are today starting, I would say last year already, starting to invest more a bit on studying it proper and then giving more of the advisory and consulting element to it. So that's what we have been advocating. So we typically would engage clients, we look for their stakeholders. We'll go through a discovery workshop with the production, quality, maintenance, business side of things, IT, to understand the underlying business issue and what were the expectations. Thereafter, we then map up, the blueprints of what's supposed to be done, and then, the roadmap of what can be achieved in phases. So it's more bite-sized and acceptable. And then based on this milestone approach, you can actually review the KPIs if it's meeting our expectations, and then we tweak it. Now, the second part of it is that where typically I would say the problem statement is already known. You probably know that the motors are inefficient, the drives are inefficient, or instruments are inefficient. So that is a little bit more simpler, right? So we tend to look at it to make sure that you have the true or real data coming from all these devices. So if there's short of a measuring element to it, we add that. And then we have over time understand what are those issues. So if to conclude, so our so-called overseas uniqueness here is that we have been in industrial and automation, process automation space for a long time. After being through certain of these domains, we tend to have a view already of what are industry today and what are trends, what are benchmark. And so internally, we have all these resources to deal with all these requirements. And it allows us to work with clients on a step-based, more understandable, more approachable digital transformation journey. All right, thanks.
Okay, so sounds like getting the bosses into it in the very first step is the most important. And then the next step will be collecting information, data and information to support the plans moving forward. So maybe our other friends, you have some inputs to share?
So from Rockwell Automation, we do have a suite of products and solutions to support this digital transformation. I think that's one of the ways to solve that issue, right, or the efficiency. So if you look at the solutions we have, because like what Tok Yong said, they provide the solutions to the customer which has either small or big, depending on the size and requirement. So the Rockwell solution we provide, we like to call it a scalable OE or scalable solutions. So whether the customer wants to start small.
Okay, so that means they can start small in bite size, so that they feel that experience and start to learn, and then you can top up towards the end part where you have a bigger systems at the end.
So they can build up as they grow. So either they can start with one single project, a POC in a company, or a small factory in a single line, and then they can scale up to maybe one factory, and then maybe roll out to enterprise-wide to multiple lines. So our solutions and services that we provide can address those sort of things. And at the same time, I think we also understand that for some companies, it's difficult to start, right? So we also provide the consultancy to handhold the customer, to work with them, to identify the projects that makes the most sense and create the ROI, the first ROI to carry on funding the projects.
I think this is very important because big bosses will be, very. In fact, some of them in the industry they have this issue of, I started before, and I failed, and it's miserable to everybody in the company. So with this bite size, I guess they feel more comfortable to start. And then also for the technology people, it's easier for us to feed different technology as long as we, as we discover it, just like what Mr. Lee mentioned. They discover it together with us, the technology people, what actually they need, and then we can further develop together. What about Mr. Fan?
When we talk about end user efficiency, I can relate to their work process, their asset, and how can we implement this smart manufacturing solution for them. So to improve productivity and efficiency, we will ask plants typically these following questions. Number one, we'll help them to analyze their workflow. So basically, we can identify what's the gap and how can we integrate these smart solutions that we have, that we partners with Rockwell or our Encompass partners to deliver to them. Then secondly is, of course, like just I mentioned, the process is manual. So how can we keep the plant organized or encouraging them in investing a set of maintenance management software, which can use AI-powered software to understand overall plant situations, to plan, track, and also to reduce of all those many processes that I mentioned. And of course, providing training is a core. Engineers should have keep track of the latest technology, latest product in their plants. So uptime is very important on that. They can attend to the issues firstly. So fourth, ensure the machine is well maintained. That's for sure. Then lastly, evaluate the asset and equipment in the plants. Some user, to our surprise, they might not even know what kind of asset they own. So it might be a discontinued or legacy product. So when things start to break down, they start to ask around, scrap around. But when it comes to all those old products, they might have an issue.
The end of life products will be
yes,
big issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
with your kind of offer, like data you mentioned, definitely can help them to do preempt them to prepare for the breakdown. Yes. So yeah, I hear a lot of very, very good technologies, all standby. But would I to also ask, I think I also see a lot of case where technology is there, the bosses willing to, to start, but there are some hurdles that are going around in the different industry and different companies. Maybe all of you can share some of this case where there's big hurdle to move the technology into the plant. Any example, Mr. Lee?
I think we started with the order already, so maybe I carry on here.
Yeah.
So I think you hear about a lot of new trends, new transformation ideas, and then you're talking about IoT, you're talking about cloud, you're talking about ERP integration, subsystem integration, new devices. So bosses are confused. The market is confused. So deeply what we suggest is that, you first start with understanding what is the true efficiency. That is visibility. So visibility comes from your devices, your SCADA platforms, your PLC platforms, and the software platform to analyze all this. And then once you have done that, I think we also can help as part of the journey to benchmark. I'm sure the clients already know. They will benchmark themselves against their industry peers. So they know what are your efficiency levels you're targeting. So thereafter, then we identify the gaps. So the gaps, again, could be coming from the process or the technology. So that part we have to work it through. And then, as I was saying, as part of the discovery sessions and advisories that we do, so we'll give them a more stepwise. So we'll define, we can study technology platforms, we can study the gap benchmarking. So we lay out a blueprint on the platform that need to be added. And then we also give evaluation of the technologies that are to be deployed. But I think the last part is also ensuring that there's anchoring to it. Because a key thing with digital transformation is you can deploy the latest and greatest, but if your folks, your labor, your resources don't want to use it, it's a white elephant, right? So I think anchoring that portion, getting people to use it, people to adopt the technologies is important.
So I hear, very similar thing is the people that's the biggest hurdle to get technology into their plants. So maybe our two friends, any other example, real example that you have met? People in what way, what kind of hurdles the people face?
I think if we look at from Rockwell's side, we've done multiple projects globally. We've been around for a long time. And in fact, we also use a lot of this technology in our own plant. So we have a lot of experiences both in-house and also working with customers, right? So if you look at the hurdles, there's several dimensions to it. I think the first part, we talk about data, right? Do they have the right data? How do you collect the data? So that's the first part. Then the second one is, once you have the data, data is data. Now there's too much data. So how do you make sense of the data? So what I like to term is, how do you transform your data to information? Because with information, they can make the right decisions to improve your plant and then know what the problems to solve, right? So it's data, then the information. The third part, I think to echo what they said, the people. I think one of the biggest hurdles in the end is the people. You have the best plan, you have the best solution, the best hardware, the best software, you put it in. If the people are not convinced that the technology can help them, and the technology is not to replace them, but in fact it's to make their work more efficient and improve their knowledge and improve their skill set, then they'll buy in, they have more success. So in the end, it's the people.
Okay. Yeah. So do you see people is the biggest hurdle, but do you see what is lacking in the people? Is just no confidence, or also they do not have enough knowledge about technology? Like just now what Mr. Pham said is training, Yeah. In what way of training, that kind of thing that is really very crucial in most of these technology cases that you see? Is it just fundamental training that they lack, or on the job training that that companies like yours would have to put in a lot more effort?
I think if you look at it from Rockwell, at least from our internal experience, two things. One is, of course, like you said, the ignorance of the technology. And so if you have more, just like when we first went from normal handphone to smartphone, I think there was a lot of people don't want to change the smartphone because there's so much technology, I don't know how to use it. Yeah, correct. The fear of technology is always there. So that's the first part. And then the second part is fear of being replaced. I think that's the other big part.
The workman, yes.
Correct. And therefore, when you transform a company, it's just not about bringing the technology in, but your whole HR system, your whole benefit system, your reward system for the company, it must go along with it. So it is a whole big the transformation is not just about technology. It cannot be just about technology.
So if from the boss onwards to the HR department to deploy the message or to send out the message, and then also to provide training and plan training in.
Exactly. So sometimes what we see is that when we talk to certain group of people, they are pushing the balls of responsibilities around. So this is under that department, this under that department. So it's very, very important to get hold of the key stakeholders together, or even the big boss that to implement all these strategies.
Okay, so I hear from my friends on this panel today is big boss, you must change your mindset first. Second, HR must come in to really support the transformation. Then people like us in the automation world and with technology and all this help, consultancy and all that, then we can get the thing moving. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.